Water quality and countermeasures against global warming. This lecture will explore overall methods for water quality management in the water supply system, the effects of global warming on water quality in the water supply, and measures for responding to these effects. The topics covered, in order, will be water quality management in the water supply system and climate change and countermeasures against algae for water quality management. Water quality management in the water supply system. Water supply pipes, which carry raw water from the intake point to the water treatment plant, are referred to as water conveyance pipes, and those which carry water from the water treatment plant to the distribution reservoir are referred to as transmission pipes. The pipes, which carry water from the distribution reservoir to the consumer, are called distribution pipes, and those which carry water from the water meter to a household faucet are called indoor supply piping. Water examination for the water supply tests water from the raw water stage to household taps in accordance with relevant laws and regulations and is carefully monitored. The results of water examination are released and shared with the public through a variety of media. A total of 31 items are inspected for raw water quality. Real-time automatic water quality meter installed at intake points for monitoring to test for the ingress of toxic substances and include biological warning devices for the presence of organisms such as water flea. Water treatment plant standards for the management of treated water are the water quality standards for drinking water and include 60 categories. In addition, there are legal water quality standards, and local governments add additional water quality categories for testing to ensure safe water quality. In Seoul, there is testing for 110 categories, and 150 testing categories have been added for unregulated new substances, making a total of 320 categories for water quality testing, which is the highest in the world. In addition, water examination is carried out at different points in the supply process, such as distribution reservoirs and taps, and there is a system through which you can check an area's water examination results at any time using a mobile device. Korea has 60 categories for water examination of tap water, with 4 categories for microbes, including general bacteria, 11 categories for inorganic substances that are harmful to health like lead and arsenic, and 17 categories for organic substances that are harmful to health, such as phenol. There are also 12 categories for substances with a minimal effect on health, such as triolemethanes, iron, and manganese. In accordance with the water treatment standards of the Water Supply and Waterworks Installation Act, daily reports are made to the government, the Ministry of Environment, on checks of turbidity in the filter basin and inactivation ratios, which determine the effectiveness of disinfection for particular microbes. Under the Drinking Water Management Act, water quality in the supply process is measured, with quarterly water examinations at each step of the supply system and monthly faucet water examinations. And in the event that there is old piping, additional tests are added. Recently, it has become mandatory to carry out cleaning of supply pipes at least once per year to keep impurities or suspended substances from accumulating. In the case of Seoul, in the past, water tanks were placed in homes. Secondary contamination could occur there, and water quality was difficult to manage, with loss of residual chlorine in dead water. In general homes today, a directly connected system supply is used, and water is directly supplied to homes using water pressure. However, in multifamily living facilities, such as apartment buildings, receiving tanks are required, and the Water Supply and Waterworks Installation Act specifies hygiene standards for receiving tanks that require cleaning twice per year, as well as a duty to perform water examinations even after cleaning. Climate change and countermeasures against algae for water quality management. Climate change is having serious effects on water quality. for the water supply. Unlike in the past, there are severe changes in weather from year to year, and it is difficult to predict. Sometimes the rainy season is lengthened, regardless of the season. Sometimes there are heat waves, and some years there are droughts which lead to lengthened drought periods. In particular, eutrophication in rivers and lakes used for water intake and algae are severe problems. When algae occurs in tap water resources, taste and odor compounds increase, and algal toxins can also be detected. The introduction of advanced water treatment processes at water treatment facilities in Seoul between 2010 and 2015 can be viewed as a response to increased taste and odor compounds due to algae. Korea is the only country in the world that operates an algae warning system. The algae warning system has interest, warning, and outbreak levels for the occurrence of noxious cyanobacteria in tap water resources. And there are measures for increased standards for water treatment response depending on the warning level. Let's look at the 4 types of noxious cyanobacteria. Microcystis SBP aeruginosa forms green algae and produces microcystin, a hepatotoxin. Aphanizomenon SBP Fosaqui produces smells of mustiness and decomposition, as well as saxitoxin, a neurotoxin. Anabena SBP causes a musty smell and contains anatoxin, a neurotoxin. Oscillatoria SBP produces a musty smell and the hepatotoxin microcystin. This is a graph showing trends in the occurrence of taste and odor compounds in Han River water resources. Even among the 4 major rivers of Korea, the concentration of taste and odor compounds in the Han River is relatively high. The major taste and odor compounds in Han River water are geosmin and 2-MIB. Geosmin has an earthy smell, and its concentration is high in the summer when Cyanobacterium unabina is reproducing. Levels of over 1,000 nanogram per liter were detected once in August 2012, but currently levels are declining. 2-MIB has a musty smell, and unusually high concentrations are detected in the winter. As you can guess, very high levels are being detected recently. Let's take a look at responses to algae in tap water resources. In tap water resources, there are many dams upstream. Water must be stored behind dams, but as the flow rate slows, algae is able to thrive. If excessive algae is observed, temporary dam fluxing is an effective method for sending it downstream. In addition, in lakes, types of algae differ by water depth. Usually noxious cyanobacteria, which produce taste and odor compounds, are plentiful at the upper levels, and diatoms, which cause filtering problems, are plentiful at lower levels. For these reasons, it is best to choose water intake depth according to the season in order to minimize water treatment problems. An algae barrier screen must be installed on the intake tank to minimize ingress of noxious cyanobacteria from the upper layers. Let's take a look at countermeasures for when noxious cyanobacteria increases in tap water resources. If prechlorination is carried out in the receiving well of the receiving tank or water treatment plant, the cell walls of noxious cyanobacteria are destroyed, and concentrations of taste and odor compounds and algal toxins can actually increase. For this reason, it is advisable to minimize prechlorination and use a chemical precipitation filtering process to remove as much of the algae as possible. The remaining taste and odor compounds dissolved in the water must be removed using powdered activated charcoal or advanced treatment. If diatoms increase in tap water resources, filter clogging can occur, causing problems due to shortened continuous filtering time. If there is ingress of diatoms, there must be an increase in prechlorination dosage and oxygenation process. Even if the cell walls of the bacteria are destroyed, their contents are non-toxic. They play the role of flocculant, increasing the adhesion of suspended substances and algae. Let's investigate methods for using powdered activated carbon at water treatment plants. If noxious cyanobacteria occur in tap water resources, prechlorination is minimized, and powdered activated carbon treatment is added. Injection of powdered activated carbon increases with the concentration of taste and odor compounds in raw water. However, caution must be used because if 25 ppm or more is injected, it can cause filter leakage. If occurrence of diatoms continues and clogging occurs frequently in the sand filter, it is advisable to switch to dual-level filtration. In a dual-level filter, the upper layer contains anthracite and the lower level contains sand. With sand filtration, deposits of algae are concentrated on the sand surface, and there is a short continuous filtering time. But at the anthracite level, algae can be deposited throughout the anthracite, and continuous filtering time is lengthened, increasing filtering speed. Finally, let's take a look at measures for reducing disinfection byproducts. If chlorine dose is increased in the summer, chlorine disinfection byproducts are increased. Trihalomethanes generally occur in large quantities during prechlorination, so if prechlorination dose is reduced and intermediate chlorination is carried after the sedimentation tank, trihalomethanes can be reduced. In the case of raw water in which large amounts of disinfection byproducts are produced, it is advisable to switch to preozonation, an alternative oxidation process. Thank you for listening.